So similar to how you're selling to your customers, kind of saying, here's the value, similar tech stack companies come to you and say, look, okay, here's how we can improve your revenue and your profitability and acceleration and all that. And, it's amazing. It used to be the kind of analogy, it was all kind of mirror data. Now, kind of all this coaching and, kind of companies like Gong that do a great job helping, giving feedback real time on cause and slicing, dicing data works out amazingly well for sure. And before I forget, what about on the partner side? I know you have probably hundreds or thousands, but you've had kind of a handful of partners that have been kind of a beachhead over time, right?
Yep. Yeah, there have been obviously some. Our biggest one is Cisco. Obviously, has been just a phenomenal partner since I remember working with them in 1995. So they've been a growing partner for us since. So that's a long time ago. Other partners like when you were at HP, now HPE as well, big partner of ours. Dell, enormous partner of ours. You also have the NetApps and Palos of the world. That I think you name it. There are VMware's, IBM's. There's a number of very strong partner that really creates this ecosystem that allows us to really drive innovative solutions to our customers, especially as a partner of all of those, and obviously many more up and coming ones as well as like I see Bill Hogan on here, like Beyond Identity as an example.
Passwords. What about passwords?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. By the way, I have Beyond Identity on my laptop, Bill. FYI, I'm using it and my phone. So FYI, but it's being in a position we're in to be able to leverage all the best of breed and disrupting technologies out there from our partners allows us to get very creative and really, like I said, innovative, and to provide real outcomes from a technology side to our customers. So we're in a very good position, and we'd love to evaluate and look at all technologies to ensure that we're putting those in the light where they should be with our other partners as well as obviously our customers.
Yeah, and you go back. I mean, I don't want to insult you and say bar business, now solution provider might be a better way to say it. But back in the old days, it was you were selling any of those platforms, and that was the sale. Now it's really kind of you've got your intellectual property, your secret sauce around the methodologies and service providers and business outcomes. You're slotting in obviously all these different technologies to help with the outcome, but kind of this other layer in terms of the differentiation. So you're just not reselling. How do you make sure you guys stay ahead on that front?
That's a great one. I think one of our secret sauces, I would say, is our Advanced Technology Center. We call it our ATC. And, that is call it a B2B platform that really drives an area that is an ecosystem with all of our partners. Right now we have now 6 different data centers that make up our Advanced Technology Center. That probably equates to about $500 million worth of products from our top partners and disruptors, where we provide the ability, sandboxes, proof of concepts, education, training, and the ability to prove out technologies that not necessarily that they are just one technology, but maybe the combination of a Dell and other technology partners that are complementary to Dell, or a Cisco with a NetApp, with a VMware, those types of integrated solutions. While some of these are very good individual components, when you bring those together with our platform, our Advanced Technology Center, it's game changing when we move forward. And that's what we've been able to see as a huge value play, is using these labs that really help drive those innovative solutions for leveraging this ongoing ecosystem that represents all of our partners.
Wow. So back in the old days, it might be you'd get a bid from a customer that says, okay, we want this Cisco switch. And I'd imagine now it's more of, okay, hey, help us improve and grow our wireless environment, which is made up of several vendors, a lot of your, kind of, I'll say secret sauce in the technology center, a lot of your services people. So these, from a competitive perspective, customer might have whatever, 4 or 5 different, hopefully they just have WWT, but they might have 4 or 5 different people that could come up with 4 or 5 different solutions, right?
Yep. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, when you think about this from a kind of a life cycle, you think about the creation of an idea. The idea then is proved out in our Advanced Technology Center from a technology layer perspective. And then, then obviously procured. And then also then if it's a number of racks that we're building, then we have a very second to none, global supply chain capability with areas within, large 4 million square foot footprint here in St. Louis. And then also in, Amsterdam, India, as well as Singapore, that creates the ability then to do the supply chain, the rack builds, the technology infrastructure builds, and then ship to our customers for our services people to then, get engaged as well. So it's an end-to-end from that idea to ultimately the outcome that becomes that.
That's great. And because you're so deep across all the different technologies, I would imagine you can kind of easily outflank somebody who may just be a Cisco bar as an example, because you've got, it may be beachhead on Cisco, but you've got lots of other kind of bits and pieces and technologies and services that can provide a better solution, probably faster, more efficiently, lower cost as well, right?
Exactly. And that's what we try at least. And that's our goal, is to be able to provide that end-to-end capability and go not an inch wide, but I mean, a mile wide, an inch deep, but I want to go very wide and very deep in a lot of different areas. And I think we have a lot of the experts that have come from a lot of different environments, whether they're, they're former C-level people inside of organizations, or they're former, VP of ITs, as well as where the rubber meets the road type people, engineers, that combining all of that strength of knowledge and capability and expertise, that really helps drive the capability and the credibility to help really enable these solutions.
That's great. And then speaking about credibility, new solutions. So you have a Bill Hogan, who you knew a long time from NetApp days. You have a Frank Roush, who you knew from HP and then VMware days. Now they go to smaller companies. So a Bill Beyond Identity, a Frank recently, Cato Networks. So that must add some credibility where you know them, like them, trust them. Previously, you may not have looked at those companies, but if they're kind of betting their job and their lives on it, then that helps you maybe get a closer look at those technologies and then actually be interested in putting those as part of your portfolio. Is that how it works?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, to me, and you know this as well, I mean, relationships in this space are absolute key. And, whether they're, Bill or Frank or the many others that we all have, I mean, when these respected people move from one organization to another, we'll absolutely accept their call to understand more about what they're doing, because they're good people, they're trusted people, and it's those types of people we want to always do business with if possible. So happy to really spend time with all the people as we network and build relationships. Those are, to me, the most important areas as we've evolved as worldwide, has been our relationships and trust we have in people as they evolve and go to other positions.
Great. So Bill and Franks for the shout outs. And we also have from Carl, blessed to join WWT this past June. The organization is truly the gold standard amongst solution providers. Terrific culture with extremely talented people in all roles throughout the company. Awesome new office in New York City too. So very cool. So that dovetails well into, I think you've been on the Fortune 100 best companies to work for list for 10 years in a row. So you must be doing something right and something amazing in terms of culture and why people want to work there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great validation. Actually, it's been 11 years in a row, and we're hoping to have the 12th year when they announce it in April. So fingers crossed on that one. But just it's a validation that the things that we're doing, it's working, it's resonating. But it's not the only thing. I mean, it's a great one to have about and focus on. But where we'll spend a lot of time is on our people and our culture and what we're doing, listening and providing feedback and just getting perspective. How can we improve? We are not a perfect organization by any means. And we need the feedback. We need other opinions to help us, shape us, and guide us as we evolve, as a business evolves, moving forward. So very excited about the Fortune best companies to work for list. And, but there's a lot of other things that we spend time on. I always say that if someone said, what is your secret sauce? I always say our people and our culture. I mean, it really is. I mean, I've been here for 30 years, and I can tell you that if you asked me 30 years ago about the importance of culture, I would have said, I have no idea. I don't even know what that means. I can tell you this, I know what it means now, and the importance of what that does to an organization. And by the way, not only the importance of what that does to an organization, but if you can build that trust and that culture inside of Worldwide, and then we can focus on extending that to our partners, extending that to our customers, and then ultimately the community. That is something that we are very, very focused on every day, as how we can evolve and change and stay in front of all of those areas and be very, very effective.
That's awesome. All right, Bill, I'll allow him the shameless plug. Bill, if we had our act together, we would have had a link that tied into sales community for a free trial or something like that. But anyway, Bill says, Joe, thanks for the shout out for Beyond Identity, and happy you're enjoying the liberation of password lists through our platform. Revenue leaders like you need to push their CISOs like you have to put passwords in the past, improving their security. I mean, just what a pain in the ass. You always have, remember, it's HP, fortunately, sales community, we're not as strict, but the, kind of having to update those, and there's always these funky things and you can never remember them. But anyway, so Joe, thanks for that. And Rick says they're fortunate to have you, Carl. So again, for those watching, feel free, love the comments. Feel free to ask any questions. Lots of wisdom here with Joe for sure. So before I forget, we have, I didn't ask. So from an openings perspective, I know most companies are kind of tightening down, but you guys are still growing. Any openings in particular that you guys are looking for now?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I mean, this year is a bit crazy, and there's a lot of unknowns to it. So we're very cautious about what we're doing, as most companies are, as you see a bunch of the layoffs that are happening out there. But there still are, I call surgical openings that can help, where we need a person or services people or a body in certain areas that we believe make sense that can drive an ROI sooner than later. That said, it is something we're watching as the industry moves, as to what we'll be doing, kind of moving forward. But we continue to invest in certain areas, but very cautious where those areas are and how much we're investing at this point.
Oh, awesome. So before I forget, so our title topic is perseverance at work and at home. On the one hand, people would think of those as kind of very different, but I think you've got a great point of view that they're really combined. And maybe first and foremost, be remiss if we didn't talk about I don't know the detail you want to get into, but your cancer side, you're given 50% in 5 years, so that must have been a huge wake up call.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it is. First of all, it's kind of a bit surreal when someone says you have cancer, and then a month later they say you have 50% chance to live in 5 years. And you think about that, well, that's not that bad of a percent. But wait a second, that's not the best percentage either. So you have to focus on. I train my mind on focusing on the 50% positive side of that, and that's where I was focused. And the one thing about when I talk about perseverance with other cancer patients or even on the business side, there's one thing that I always talk about first. When you're in times of adverse times, my first thing is build the team. The team is an important piece around you. Whether that's talking about I'm a new employee at a new company, or I didn't hit my number, or our business is not having a good month or quarter or year. You have to build the team around you, or whether it's personal. I just was diagnosed with cancer, or I have I'm going through a divorce, or I had a family member pass. Build your team. That team around you that will help guide you, push you, and challenge you when you need it the most. And I think that there was a quote that I wrote down. I listened to podcasts, but when you go in front of when you're supposed to climb a very large mountain in a height, for example, that height becomes 30% less, hard when someone's next to you and working with you in that climb. So having people around you, having a support system around you is very important in very difficult times. And so I had that. I was blessed to have that with my wife, my family, a bunch of friends. Jim Kavanaugh, our CEO, was there all the time for me. And so I had that, and a bunch of my other coworkers as well. So when you're in a difficult time, I always say, build your team around you. And then you have to, you can't, there's another quote that I always use that someone wrote, actually John O'Leary, in a book called On Fire, is that you can't always choose the path you walk in life, but you can always choose the manner in which you walk it. So that's up to us. No one else is going to do that for you. That is your choice. So it's a matter of choices that we all have in business and, in personal crisis. Those are choices that we have to make, but your team around you will help influence those with you and will challenge you on those. So I think, to me, it's so important now than ever, is you have to have the mental mindset in order to get through some difficult times. I use this when I was briefing. You may be asking this later, but when I was briefing this 4-star general over at Air Mobility Command, he asked me to speak to his leadership team about building a high performance culture and perseverance. And so I roughly someone sent me a video from the Duke women's basketball coach who was speaking to her team, and her speech to that team really resonated with me. Her in essence, I'll paraphrase, but it was, everyone always thinks that things will get easier, and I'll equate it to I'll get to the areas of, hey, when you are in sales, if I make my first sale, it's going to be easier. If I'm going to make my number this year, it's going to be easier. Do I make if the company does well, it's going to be easier next year. And her point is, it never gets easier. It only gets more difficult. The next year, you're going to have a better number, for example. It's going to be more difficult that next year. So you just find ways to handle hard better. And I think that comes with trials and tribulations that we all face every day. You just learn how to handle hard better. And to me, I listened to that. It resonated with me. Through difficult times, you figure out how to handle hard better because of what you've been through. So, for what that's worth, that's what I focus on in terms of dealing with cancer patients when I mentor them, or dealing with reps or some of our sales leaders around here, and work through some difficult times, but also some positive times as well. How do we amplify our mindset to continue to learn and be better? And that, to me, is a big focus.
Oh, that's great. And you certainly must have had, a decent amount of time where you're kind of out of pocket, out of the office. So you must have had your team step up big time.
I was basically out for a year. In 2017, I was out from January until October. And then in October through December, I was barely there. I was in rehab, doing rehab and therapy for most of that time. So my team, Jim, and the sales team all around me stepped up and we didn't miss a beat. And by the way, to that point, 2017, was our best year ever. And so I'm like, okay, hold on a second. That almost makes me a little bit bad, I'll be honest with you.
Well, for another year.
So that moral of the story is, hire good people and they don't need you anymore. No, but no, it was, and I'll tell you, I was so humbled by all the things that people, the cards and notes and things that little random acts of kindness that people did, and it was phenomenal. And I gave me a different perspective on life, on people, on things that are important. And I was very blessed to have that kind of reflection that I can now look back on and better understand out there.
That's awesome. So tied into that, you mentioned a bunch kind of work ethic. I worry kind of with the younger generation and, kids I talk to that, kind of not being in the office, not seeing best practices, not seeing the example, and kind of culturally, these days really not being able to push people, from that work ethic perspective on the one hand. And then, I'd say when we were growing up, we were just sponges to always learn more and do more on our own. I'm wondering if that's getting lost with some of this kind of younger generation.
Yeah, that is a very good topic. I think that this work from home is difficult. In some ways it's positive for people. In some ways it's, I think, a bit devastating for young people. They don't have the camaraderie. They don't have the ability to collaborate, to learn, and so forth. Some do a good job. I'm not going to stereotype all. But I think they still need, that networking component, that water cooler talk, to ask questions when someone's around the corner that people miss. And so I think it's up to all of us as leaders from the work from home is, if you're not mandating people to be at the office and or you're not mandating them to be there days a week, then we have to find intentional ways to get them to the office. To be part of the greater team and get to know their people. I did an event back in early, I guess it was probably in November now, when I think about it. And it was, we brought a bunch of employees in that were new since COVID. And there were probably about 40 people in the room, and I kicked it off and just, introduced myself, a little bit of background on the business and all that stuff. But they've been working. And I said, well, how many people have been here for the last 2 years? All of them raised their hand. I'm like, and you've never visited World, never headquarters? Nope, never been there. In fact, 8 of them didn't, or it was 8 or 10, they've never met their manager before, face to face. And so, and that's incumbent upon all of us to find ways to be better at that. Video is a great option, but it's not the end all. And I think we have to be more intentional about bringing people together at the right times for the right reason, understanding that people have cost challenges, but what can we do to help enhance and drive this culture, in a different way, since some people are a little bit more remote now. And it's up to our leaders and managers to help provide feedback and additional perspective on the best ways you can accomplish that, knowing that we have to have some face-to-face fact with them. And by the way, it's funny, I was up in the elevator the other day, and I asked someone, I haven't seen you in the office. It was my first time back in a while. I'm like, well, is there a reason why that you're not coming to the office? Just sure, it doesn't bother me. Well, no one else is here. Why should I be here?